Imagine being thrown out of the only place you called home, with no hope and no one to turn to. That was Naomi's reality until one day she met a billionaire who changed everything. But this is not just a story of rescue, it's a tale of betrayal, shocking secrets, and a love that no one saw coming. How did Naomi go from a poor maid to something much greater? Find out now in a small town where news spread quickly. There lived a young woman named Naomi. She was an orphan, quiet but hardworking. Naomi had only one thing in the world, a job at a small laundry shop where she washed, ironed and folded clothes for people who barely noticed her. The shop was not just her workplace, it was her home. A small mat in the corner was where she slept every night, and a single cup and plate were all she owned. Yet Naomi was grateful. At least I have somewhere to stay. She often whispered to herself. One bright morning, Naomi sat on her mat eating her small bowl of garri, soaked in water. Her boss had just opened the shop and the first customer of the day, a well-dressed woman wearing bright yellow lace, walked in. Naomi quickly wiped her hands on her tray and grabbed a cup of water to wash her face before starting her work. As she walked through the doorway, she didn't notice the woman stepping into the shop. At the same time, they collided. "Hey, are you blind?" the woman shouted, staring at her dress now drenched in water. Naomi's heart sank. Sorry ma, I didn't see you. Please ma, let me clean it." She reached out to touch the fabric. "Don't touch me," the woman snapped, stepping back. "Do you know how expensive this dress is? You're this dirty girl." Naomi lowered her head. "I'm very sorry ma. It was a mistake. A mistake," the woman backed. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the morning air. "Is that you people work here? No manners, no training?" Before Naomi could say another word, the woman stormed past her and entered the small office where Naomi's boss sat. Naomi stood, frozen, her hands trembling. She could hear the woman's angry voice. "Fire her," the woman shouted. "If this is the kind of person you employ, I'm taking my business elsewhere. I can't deal with such carelessness." Naomi's boss, a bald man with tired eyes, tried to calm her down. "Madam, please, it's not that serious. She's a good worker, I don't care." The woman yelled, "If you don't sack her, I'm done with your shop, and don't forget, my fiancé is one of your biggest customers." The boss sighed heavily. He walked out of the office and called Naomi. She stepped forward, her heart pounding as if it would burst out of her chest. "Naomi," he said softly, avoiding her eyes, "I don't know how to say this. Please sir, I didn't mean to." "Naomi," he cut her off. "You've been a good worker, but I can't afford to lose a customer like her. I'm sorry, but you'll have to leave." Naomi dropped to her knees. "Sir, please don't do this. I have nowhere to go. This is where I live, where I eat. Please sir, don't send me away." Her boss looked at her with pity, but he shook his head. "Naomi, I'm sorry. My hands are tied." The well-dressed woman stood at the doorway, smirking. "That will teach you to watch where you're going," she said before leaving with a loud. Naomi sat on the floor, tears streaming down her face. Her world had just crumbled. Where would she go? How would she survive? The day was just beginning, but for Naomi, it already felt like the end. Naomi sat on the floor of the laundry shop, her head buried in her hands. The tears wouldn't stop. She looked up at her boss one last time. "Sir, please, I don't have anywhere to go. I will work harder. I will wake up earlier. Please don't send me away." Naomi begged, her voice trembling. Her boss sighed deeply, rubbing his forehead. "Naomi, it's not about your hard work. You know I appreciate you, but that woman is my best customer. If I lose her, it will affect my business. I'm sorry, you have to leave." "But where will I go?" Naomi cried. "This is the only place I have. How will I eat? Eat, please sir. Have mercy on me, Naomi," he said, avoiding her teary eyes. "I've already made up my mind. You can't stay here anymore. Just pack your things." Naomi felt like her world was crashing. She looked around the tiny shop where she had spent the last 2 years. It wasn't much, but it had been her home. She had no family, no friends, and no money. That evening, with nothing but a small bag of her clothes, Naomi walked aimlessly through the streets. The sun had set and the town was quiet, except for the occasional sound of cars passing by. She felt invisible, like the world had forgotten she existed. As she wandered, she saw an uncompleted building. The walls were high, but there were no doors or windows. Yet she peeped inside and saw a flat surface of cement blocks. It wasn't safe, but it was better than sleeping on the street. Naomi climbed inside, laid her bag on the cold floor, and sat down. "God, please help me," she whispered. She lay on the floor using her wrapper as a blanket. The night was long and cold, but she stayed awake, her mind filled with thoughts of what tomorrow would bring the next morning. The sound of voices woke Naomi. She sat up quickly, startled to see a group of men walking into the building, holding tools and wearing helmets. They stopped in their tracks when they saw her. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" one of the men asked. His tone firm but not unkind. Naomi stood up, her hand shaking. "Please, sir, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to trespass. I lost my job, and I'm hoping to have the opportunity to work here. Please, I can work. Let me help with the construction, I'll do anything." The men exchanged glances, some of them shaking their heads. "This is not a job for women," one of them said. "It's hard work, lifting heavy blocks, mixing cement. Are you sure you can handle it?" "I can do it, sir," Naomi said, her voice firm. "I'm strong, please just give me a chance." The men hesitated, whispering among themselves. Finally, one of them said, "You have to talk to the boss, he'll be here soon." Naomi nodded. "Thank you, sir, I'll wait." She sat quietly in a corner of the building, watching as the workers began their tasks. The smell of cement filled the air, and the sound of hammers echoed around her. Naomi felt a small flicker of hope. After about an hour, a tall man in a white shirt and safety boots walked into the building. His face was strict and he looked like someone who didn't take nonsense. The workers quickly gathered around him, explaining Naomi's situation. The man walked up to Naomi, his eyes scanning her from head to toe. "So, you want to work here?" he asked, his voice deep. "Yes, sir," Naomi said, standing straight. "I have no place to go, and I need to survive. I will do my best." The man raised an eyebrow. "This is not a place for playing. If you cannot handle it, you will leave. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir, I understand." "All right," he said, after a long pause. "You can start tomorrow." Naomi's face lit up. "Thank you, sir." "God bless you, sir," as the workers returned to their task. Naomi sat in the corner, tears streaming down her face this time, not from sadness but from a glimmer of hope. The next morning, Naomi started her first day on the site. The sun was hot and the work was harder than she expected. She carried heavy blocks on her head, mixed cement with sand, and fetched water from a nearby tap. Her arms ached and her legs felt weak, but she didn't stop. The workers watched her with surprise. "Ah, this girl is really strong," one of them said. Another laughed honestly. "She's even working better than some of the boys here." Naomi ignored their comments and kept walking. She knew she had no choice. This was her second chance, and she couldn't afford to mess it up. A week later, the owner of the building, Mr. Francis, arrived unexpectedly. He was a well-dressed man with a calm but commanding presence. As he walked around the site, inspecting the work, he noticed something unusual in the corner of the site. A young girl was carrying heavy blocks on her head. Her clothes were stained with cement and sweat dripped down her face. But she didn't stop. "Who is that girl?" Mr. Francis asked the engineer, pointing at Naomi. The engineer hesitated, then replied, "Sir, her name is Naomi. She has been working with us for about a week. Now, why is she doing this kind of work?" This is not work for a young girl, Mr. Francis said. Frowning, the engineer explained how Naomi had nowhere to go and had begged to be allowed to work. She's very hardworking, sir. She doesn't complain and she gets the job done. Mr. Francis shook his head. This is not right. Call her here. The engineer nodded and waved Naomi over. She quickly wiped her face with the edge of her dress and walked to where they were standing. Good morning, sir, Naomi said, bowing slightly. Morning, Mr. Francis said, his voice kind but firm. What's your name, Naomi, sir? Naomi, why are you doing this kind of work? Don't you know it's dangerous and too hard for someone like you? Naomi lowered her head. Sir, I have no other choice. I need to survive. Please, sir, don't send me away. I'll do anything to keep this job. Mr. Francis sighed deeply. This is not the kind of life a young girl like you should live. You can't continue here. I'll speak to the engineer. You have to stop this work. Naomi's heart sank. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at Mr. Francis, hoping he would change his mind. The sun was setting when the engineer called Naomi aside. His face looked heavy, and Naomi's heart sank even before he spoke. Naomi, he began slowly. Mr. Francis said, you can't continue working here. He said, it's for your own good. You are too young to be carrying this kind of load. Naomi's chest tightened. Sir, please, I have nowhere to go. I'll work harder. I promise I don't even mind sleeping here. The engineer shook his head. It's not my decision. You have to leave. I'm sorry. You know what they say. Every disappointment is a blessing. I believe God will grant you a better opportunity. Tears spilled from Naomi's eyes as she packed her few belongings and moved to another uncompleted building that night. As she lay on the cold cement floor, Naomi felt more alone than ever. She hugged herself, shivering in the night air. God, why me? She whispered, her voice shaking. What did I do to deserve this? But no answer came. Meanwhile, Mr. Francis went to the laundry to collect his freshly cleaned clothes. The owner greeted him warmly. Good evening, sir. Welcome. Good evening, Mr. Francis replied as he handed over his receipt. While waiting for his clothes, he glanced around the shop, his thoughts drifting back to Naomi. Something about her had stayed with him, and he couldn't shake the feeling that she needed help. Excuse me, he said to the owner. Do you know a girl named Naomi? She used to work here. The owner's cheerful expression faded. Naomi, she had a problem with one of our C customers. The woman wasn't happy and demanded I sack her. It was your fiancé Chini that said she must go. Mr. Francis blinked in surprise. Chini, are you sure? Yes, sir. She was very upset that Naomi spilled water on her clothes. She even threatened to stop bringing her laundry here if I didn't fire the girl. Francis was quiet for a moment. Do you know where Naomi is? Now the owner shook his head. No idea, sir. She just left like that. I don't think she had anywhere to go. Francis thanked the owner and collected his clothes. But his mind was troubled. Why would Chini go so far as to get a girl fired over something so small? And where was Naomi now as he drove home that evening? Francis couldn't help but feel a deep sense of guilt. He knew he had to find Naomi, no matter how long it took. A few days later, Naomi was walking along the roadside, her slippers barely protecting her feet from the rough ground. She wrapped her arms around herself, hoping to find some warmth. The road was quiet, except for the occasional car speeding past. Suddenly, bright headlights lit up the path ahead, and a black SUV slowed down beside her. The window rolled down, and a familiar voice called out, Naomi. She froze, straining to see who it was. It was Mr. Francis. Sir Naomi's voice was shaky, unsure if she should run or stay. What are you doing here at this time of night? Francis asked, his voice full of concern. I don't have anywhere to go, she admitted quietly, staring at the ground. Francis frowned. Get in the car. Naomi hesitated. Sir, I don't want to disturb you. You're not disturbing me. I can't leave you here like this. Please enter after a moment. Naomi climbed into the car. As they drove, Francis asked her questions about her life. She told him about the laundry job, the uncompleted building, and how she had been trying to survive. Francis sighed deeply. You're too young to be going through all this. You come to my house, I'll find work for you. There. Naomi's eyes widened. Your house, but sir, I know buts. Francis interrupted. You need help and I can help. Don't worry. Naomi finally nodded. Thank you, sir. God bless you. When they arrived at Francis's house, it was already late. The mansion was well lit, with large windows and a neatly trimmed garden. Naomi couldn't believe her eyes. As they stepped inside, Chen appeared from the living room, her eyes narrowing when she saw Naomi. Who is this Chini? Demanded a tone sharp. Francis remained calm. Her name is Naomi. She'll be staying here. But Chinese voice rose. This dirty girl in my house. Are you serious, Francis? Yes, I am. He replied firmly. She needs help and I've decided to help her. That's fine now. Chinese threw her hands in the air. Francis, have you lost your mind? Do you know what people will say if they see her here? I don't care what people say. Francis said, his voice steady. Naomi is staying. She'll work here and have a place to sleep. Chiny glared at Naomi, who stood silently feeling like an intruder. This is not your decision. Alone, Francis. It is. Now, Francis said, She'll be staying in the guest room. Mr. Francis then showed Naomi to her room. The bed looked soft and there was even a small window with curtain. Naomi sat down slowly, her heart pounding, as she lay down that night. She couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Chine's anger had been loud and clear, and Naomi knew that her troubles might not be over yet. From the moment Naomi started working in the house, Chine treated her like a pest. Every little thing Naomi did seemed to annoy her. Is this how you sweep? Look at the corner. Chine snapped one morning, pointing at an already spotless floor. I'm sorry, Ma, Naomi said, quietly grabbing the broom to sweep again. Sorry for yourself. Chine hissed, walking away with a frown. It wasn't just the harsh words. Chine made sure Naomi felt unwelcome in every way. She refused to let Naomi eat most of the time, saying this house is not a free-for-all. If you're hungry, manage whatever you brought from outside. One night, Francis came home earlier than usual and found Naomi sitting by herself in the kitchen staring at an empty plate. Naomi, have you eaten? He asked. Naomi hesitated, then shook her head. No, sir. Why not? There's food in this house. Naomi lowered her gaze. Madame said I shouldn't eat. Francis's eyes darkened. He stormed into the living room where Chine was scrolling through her phone. Why are you starving her? He demanded. Chine didn't even look up. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't pretend. Francis said firmly. Naomi is here to work, not to suffer. Go and serve her food now. Chine laughed bitterly. You're making this girl too comfortable, Francis, but fine if that's what you want. Moments later, Chine placed a bowl of watery soup and a tiny piece of yam in front of Naomi. Here, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Enjoy. Naomi's hands trembled as she picked up the spoon. She couldn't stop the tears rolling down her cheeks. Thank you, Ma, she whispered, her voice breaking. Chin smiled mockingly and walked away, leaving Naomi to cry silently into her meal. Despite everything, Naomi remained kind. She kept doing her chores quietly, avoiding trouble where she could. One day, Francis came back home after a long day at work. The house was quiet and Chine was nowhere to be found. He tried calling her, but she didn't answer. Then he remembered she had told him a few days ago that she had a party to attend. Maybe she's still at the party, Francis thought as he went to his room. It was very late, almost midnight. When Chine returned home, the loud bang of the door woke Naomi. Chenny was staggering. Her makeup was all over her face and her clothes smelled of alcohol. She barely made it into the house before she bent over and started vomiting in the living room. Naomi quickly rushed out of her room. "Madam, are you okay?" she asked. Worried Chenny just waved her hand weakly and slumped onto the floor without saying anything else. Naomi grabbed a mop and cleaned up the mess. Then she helped Chenny to her feet. "Let me take you to bed, Madam," Naomi said softly. Though it wasn't easy carrying Chenny, who was leaning so heavily on her, Naomi finally got her to the bed and noticed something was wrong. Chenny's body felt very hot. "Ah, she has a fever," Naomi whispered. She quickly went to the kitchen, brought a bowl of cold water and began dabbing Chenny's forehead with a cloth. After some time, Chenny woke up, but instead of thanking Naomi, she looked at her with anger. "What are you doing? Why are you touching me?" Chenny shouted. "Madam, you were not feeling well. I was just trying to help you," Naomi explained, still holding the wet cloth with your dirty hands. "How dare you touch my skin?" Chenny yelled. She grabbed the bowl of water and emptied it on Naomi's head, drenching her clothes. Naomi stood there shocked, her eyes filling with tears. "I was only trying to help," she said quietly. Just then, Francis walked into the room. He looked at the water on the floor, Naomi standing soaked and Chenny, yelling, "What is going on here?" Francis asked. Frowning, Chenny pointed at Naomi. "She thinks she can touch me with her filthy hands." Francis turned to Chenny, his voice firm. "Do you even hear yourself? You came back home like this, drunk, vomiting, and instead of thanking her for taking care of you, you're insulting her. How can you be so heartless?" Chenny tried to say something, but Francis cut her off. "Enough. I don't want to hear anything from you." He walked over to Naomi and gently took her hand. "Come with me," he said. He led Naomi to the living room, handed her a towel to dry herself, and sat next to her. "Don't let her words hurt you," Francis said kindly. "You have a good heart, Naomi. You didn't deserve that." Naomi wiped her tears. "I was only trying to help, sir. I didn't mean to make her angry." Francis looked at her and smiled softly. "You did nothing wrong. You're better than her in so many ways." As they sat there, something warm and unspoken passed between them. Francis couldn't stop thinking about Naomi's kindness, and Naomi felt safe in his presence. It was a moment neither of them would forget. Francis had always been a busy man, so he rarely paid attention to small details at home. But lately something had changed. Every evening when he came home, tired, Naomi would meet him at the door with a warm smile. "Welcome, sir. How was your day?" she would ask gently at first. Francis only gave short answers. It was fine or busy as usual. But Naomi's genuine interest made him pause one evening. It was stressful. Honestly, he admitted too many meetings. Naomi nodded with understanding. "Sorry, sir. You've been working hard. Would you like me to make you